We're live at IFA. Okay, it's not a live podcast, but the International Franchise Association is in Las Vegas. Up next. And you guys cleaned the Superdome.
We did. We made it go from gray to white.
Every great CEO lays out their vision very clearly.
So we've heard the pregnancy is worse. However, this may be close. Everyone knows him as the power washer in this community. Another power washer called up that's been doing it, and he goes, "I'm not resting until you have to close."
This episode sponsored by SEO Samba. Empower your franchise with predictable results and AI-driven marketing. And of course, I'm going to have the one, the only, Aaron Harper, CEO of Rolling Suds. It seems like the darling of the internet. If you're typing in franchising, there he is. Welcome, my buddy.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to do this.
You know, you did a podcast a long time ago with me and I on franchising with the Bryans.
The
Wendlings.
Yes.
Brian Sr. and Brian Jr.
Yes.
A lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
So kind of a status check. Brian Wendling Jr. is now what? VP of Rolling Suds Corporate?
He is the National Accounts Director. Actually.
Amazing.
So now that we have kind of this critical mass across the country, we can really start to go to these national partnerships and say, hey, we've got 86 trucks on the road all across the country, and we can basically do any job that we need to do across the country. So he's focused 100% on generating national accounts business for our franchise owners.
Amazing. Speaking of big accounts, the Superdome, the Super Bowl just happened.
Yeah.
And you guys cleaned the Superdome.
We did. We made it go from gray to white. It was 440,000 square feet on the dome there.
How many employees and how many days?
So it was a 9-week job, and we were up there and just doing it kind of old school. We weren't able to use our equipment just because it was done by a GC, and they were like, this is the way we need you to do it. This is the equipment you can use. So you're kind of limited in that regard, but like since I've been at IFA, there's probably been 20 people that I don't know that have come up to me and said, congratulations on the Superdome. I'm like, well, I can't really take credit. It's my amazing franchisees in New Orleans who worked their tail off to get the work.
And your amazing team that's promoting the heck out of it.
Yeah, that helps.
The other shocker was when you were cleaning the top of a water tower with a commercial drone.
Yeah.
And people were like, wait, they can clean the top of a water tower and a drone can hold that?
Yeah.
You're still doing that, right?
We are still doing that. So if it's above 5 stories, we send out 2 drones. Each drone is about $48,000. And one goes up, battery runs out, comes down. The other one goes up. We hook the hose, and we're just doing that. So we send out a pilot. It's all FAA certified.
Wait, is this an employee thing? You have to give them breaks?
No.
Okay.
No, the drones actually don't get tired. They have batteries. They go up and down. Then we charge them. It's much more efficient.
All right. So as the CEO of one of the absolute fastest growing home service brand, what's the biggest lesson you've learned so far?
Yeah. So the biggest lesson that I've learned is basically the business needs, any business, this isn't just Rolling Suds, needs different things from the CEO at different times. And I personally, as the leader of the organization, have to grow for what the demands are of the business. So like, for example, a year ago, I was doing all of the revenue generating franchise sales, franchise development. The business needed me to not do that anymore. And so we hired JT, who you know, who's a legend in the franchise industry.
He's a legend and he's not that old.
He's not. And he built a killer team. And so I was able to step out and really evolve with the business. And what we did is we built an executive leadership team last year, which probably rivals that of like even some of the biggest franchises out there that have like really established brands. And so we have a CFO, we have a chief development officer, we have a chief marketing officer, we have a brand president. And what we've really done is built systems to support where we don't want to be in a year and a half to 2 years, which takes a significant amount of pre-investment in the business, which I would imagine for most franchisors is too much risk. because of the amount of money that it takes to actually provide the support necessary for franchise owners. The other thing, and this is kind of going deeper within that same topic, is those people that run those departments, they need to have done this before. Because what we do when we recruit those types of people is we are the collective knowledge of like how to build a marketing department for an emerging franchisor, like how to build a sales team to make sure that we recruit the right franchisees. And most people who launch a franchise don't have that kind of knowledge base.
Yeah.
And fortunately, due to a lot of, how involved I am in the community, and we've been able to attract some really high level talent, some of the best in the business. And this has resulted in some of the best support that we could provide franchisees.
Yes. Every great CEO lays out their vision very clearly so people know what they're getting into, and they get to make a choice whether they want to participate or not.
Right.
And I think that's also on social media. People get to play along at home, even if they never become a CEO or even if they never become a franchisee for you, they're like cheering you on and at least understanding every day as you put it out there, what's next for Rolling Suds. You mentioned about risk. Some of these smaller franchise brands, I don't think it's that they're worried about risk. They don't have the money.
They don't have the money.
They don't have the resources to jump into this. And I want to applaud you when it comes to support. I know from all my years of experience in franchising as a franchise owner, I have multiple brands, support and marketing are the two biggest things that really go wrong quickly.
Yep.
Marketing no longer works, or maybe it never worked in the first place.
Right.
And there is no support.
Right.
So what you are doing for support is absolutely incredible. Now talk a little bit about training. Nothing's probably changed with training. The training was always fantastic, but talk a little bit about the training and the overall support after they become franchisees.
Yeah. So the training actually continues to get better and better, because what we do after every training is we do an after action review. So we sit with the franchisees and say, hey, what did you like? What could we improve upon? And then we bring that to our level 10 meetings that we meet with leadership team, and we iterate and we say this needed to change or this is better. So every time we do training, it gets better than the last time, which is awesome. And then for marketing specifically, we generate commercial leads for our franchisees. And sometimes these commercial leads will result in pretty sizable jobs that could keep an entire truck busy for the year, or two trucks, depending on the size of the business. And that has allowed our franchise owners to launch with work booked on the calendar. And then for our ongoing support, we have a VP of Franchisee Success. He has 4 people underneath him. And we have 60 franchise owners operating. So the level of support, we have 24 team members. So it's like 3 to 1 in terms of franchisees to employees, which is incredible. So we're, like I said earlier, we are built for the growth at this point. Franchisees are part of masterminds with other franchisees that are led by our FAC, which is Franchise Advisory Council. They're in a group chat with all franchisees and the corporate team on a daily basis. And then each week, the franchisee meets with their business coach, and the business coach has an intimate knowledge about their business. What are their goals? What are their constraints? How can we help them solve them? And then we have generalized coachings for specific people at where they are in their business. So how do we get them to 2 trucks? How do we help them get to the 3rd? What actions and behaviors and psychology traits need to happen in order to take them from step A to step B, or from B to F?
Yeah.
And so that has been a tremendous add value for just franchise owners. And, the person who leads who's our VP of Franchisee Success is a former multi-unit franchisee who grew from 2 locations for Dunkin' to 26. So he knows exactly how to build a business that has enterprise value.
Absolutely amazing. When you think about the franchisees you're looking for today, and let's kind of do a head count.
Sure.
So how many territories? 60 franchisees?
So we have 77 franchisees who own 255 territories.
Wow. So how has it changed, if at all, from the very beginning when Judd and Brittany came on board as the first franchisees Let me guess, June of 2023?
June of 2023 is when we launched our first franchise owners. Yep.
So how has it changed, if at all, from then till today?
So when we launched this, I had the expectation that it was going to be 80% residential, 20% commercial. And in my defense, it took the founding business 27 years to get anything more than 20%.
An overnight success?
Yeah, just an overnight success. So I was like, okay, best case scenario. I mean, we'll have some guys that maybe do 35% commercial, but like it's going to be really residential focused. Well, immediately we recognized after the first training class that in those two markets, so Omaha and Austin, we were 90 to 95% commercial immediately. So I invested way more money into infrastructure, brought on more marketing vendors, and built to now be 60, 70% commercial and 30, 40% residential. And so that has basically made us go to franchise owners and say, if you're not willing to get out in your community and do B2B sales immediately and walk up to people that don't know you and convince them to make them buy your services, this isn't the business for you.
Yeah.
And that has allowed us to attract some really high level operators who want to come in and build a sizable business that has recurring revenue from the commercial side. So shopping centers, I mentioned national accounts, fast food restaurants, like all these buildings have to be cleaned at some point and at some cadence. And it is typically built into their budget. So we're focused on helping people understand that when they come into this business, yeah, we're going to help generate leads. But if you're not willing to go out, shake people's hands and convince them to like you enough to book them, work with you, then this isn't business for you.
Yeah. A lot of people, myself being a franchise broker, consultant, a lot of people ask me on a regular basis, what do you have that's great in B2B?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do B2B.
Yeah.
Why does everybody want to do B2B? Is it, we know it's a higher check average, but let's just discuss that a little bit.
So
why B2B?
So when you build a business, you're trying to think about predictability of cash flow. So B2B is going to have recurring revenue streams. It's going to have contracts. It's going to have decreased amount of customers versus relative to the amount of revenue. So like, let's say we have a franchise owner that does a $37,000 hospital. Well, our average residential job size is $500. So you would need to do, 70 jobs?
Yeah.
Right? So 70 customers, meaning the pay-per-click advertising and everything to get 70 customers, which is actually probably, 300 leads, let's just call it. So, and then the amount of back-end, like customer needing this, that, blah, 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 blah. Whereas if you go get 5 customers that generate $250,000 in recurring revenue, and each of those 5 customers is on a 4-year contract, you now have an asset as a business owner that you can sell to someone else if you want for a multiple of its earnings. And if you don't have that, it's less likely. Now, I still think the residential is very important because residential provides immediate cash flow, whereas with commercial, there is an AR cycle and there is a sales cycle.
Accounts receivable for those of you playing at home.
Yes, accounts receivable, meaning you're waiting for the customers to pay you based upon the work you do, and that could be 30 to 60 days. So what we do is help our franchise owners understand that referral partners and residential work, if it's 30 to 40% of your business, that covers your costs. And then commercial allows you to reinvest and really get to scale.
I would imagine you're retaining a shit ton of that commercial business because once they find you, Aaron, I think I describe Rolling Suds as the Robert Downey Jr. Avenger-style power washer. Because some people look at me and like, power washing? Like, doesn't every window washing company do power washing?
Right.
Not like this.
Yeah. So that is what people think about when they hear power washing. They think it's a baby business. Go rent a $300 machine, clean some driveways for $50, $75. That is not the game we're playing. We're power washing the Superdome. We're doing, sky rises. We're doing city halls. We're doing
$20,000 parking garage.
Huge jobs, 5-story parking garages with 1,000 spaces, like the Oracle building, like Apple campus. Like those are the Iron Bolt. Like we're doing like this is not your average, I got a $500 job and I'm going to do it. Like
we're not in Kansas anymore.
We're not in Kansas anymore. Like this is Our trucks are massive. Like we can hit 5 stories from the ground. We can do a 3,000 square foot house in 20 minutes. Like our franchisees are playing a different game than anyone else.
Yeah.
So
I love the challenge on Twitter. Can you do this 3,000 square foot house in under 25 minutes? And I personally witnessed it twice.
yeah, you did. Yeah, it was funny. That person wrote about us. He had me on his podcast, and literally 500,000 people saw that tweet, and they were ripping him apart in the comments. There's no way it takes me 12 hours and a 6-pack to do a 3,000 square foot house, and so we're like, we'll live stream it. And we did a 4,825 square foot house in 22 minutes and 13 seconds.
Shout out to our buddy Chris. I know Chris.
Yeah, Chris Berner, yeah.
So when you think today of the top 3 qualities of your best franchisees, what are those 3?
So number 1 is grit. What we're evaluating when we interview franchise owners to become franchisees is like, have you gone through hard times in the past? And like, how did you come out on the other end of that? Business ownership in general is single-handedly the hardest thing that anyone will do, other than maybe being a great father.
What about pregnancy?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We don't know this.
We don't know that.
We've heard this.
So we've heard that pregnancy is worse. However, this may be close. And I say that because I want people to know that business ownership is hard. However, when you have a franchise brand and you have 24 team members on my team and amazing amounts of infrastructure and capital going towards helping you become successful, it's going to significantly decrease the risk versus going out and trying to figure out your own logo and what website you're going to use and what vendors are going to generate marketing and all the stuff that goes into it. So grit is what we're looking for. Sales experience certainly helps. We can teach people how to do sales. However, like if you've done cold outreach before and you've walked into places and you're comfortable in that setting, it certainly makes your growth happen faster. And then risk tolerance. So when you buy into an emerging brand, as you know, like there's not a ton of data. Our longest standing franchisee is June of 2023, right? It's now February of 25. So most of our franchisees started last year. And so they're buying in knowing that, hey, maybe I don't have as much certainty as like a brand that's been operating for 3 or 4 or 5 years and you can see what year 1 or year 2 looks like. But I think I can execute on this business. Buildings need to be cleaned. It's not a question of like whether there's demand or not. It's just a matter of like, can I go out and run this business and be successful? And fortunately, because those are kind of the 3 top things, we've brought in some really qualified franchise owners.
Yeah.
Capital is important, but that is secondary to making sure it's the right characters.
Yeah, and I love how you started. When you started, you had big integrity. You still have big integrity, but a lot of it in the beginning was like, I don't want people in debt. I want people that are well capitalized, and you launched.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you reflected like a great leader and said, we got to get some of these people financing.
Mm-hmm.
We need people to be able to leverage their assets.
Yes.
And now you have great financing in place, great packages.
We do. And we have 3 different packages. We can push the whole thing through. JT's done more SBA loans than most other people in the industry with this specific company that we work with.
The legendary JT.
The legendary JT. And we can basically, there's 3 different loan products that we can help franchise owners get. Now, we still want them to have the capital to do it on their own or have the assets to do it on their own, but this allows them to have more capital for reinvestment in the business, which makes a ton of sense given the nature of how big this business can get if the right capital and the right time is invested in growing it.
Yeah, and it would be a perfect opportunity to talk about the Dave Ramsey attitude towards leverage and the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad, Poor Dad deal and balance that and what an asset is versus leverage, you know?
Yeah.
One calls a house an asset, one doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Aaron, as long as you've been in franchising, in franchise sales, even before you were CEO, everyone is always stressing the ramp up period,
yeah.
the black hole of information. You might have done validation with franchisees and you feel satisfied, but then you maybe looking in the mirror like, how am I going to do?
Yeah.
How am I going to do? I'm scared.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. But what is the ramp up period and what is your level of responsibility for getting people from with no experience in Rolling Suds through training, burying them with leads, and the goal, getting them getting them the second truck, third truck, and so on.
Yeah. So what we try to coach franchise owners on is like, when you buy a business or when you start a business, you're building an asset. And basically the business depends upon how well you can employ others, give them opportunities to grow, and reinvest in the business. And fortunately, the people that we're bringing in understand that, by and large, that they're trying to build a large business. And so the way we have kind of our structure is basically they have a minimum of 2 territories that they purchase, right? So like they're coming in immediately starting to think like multi-unit owners. So within that first year, they're going to open that second territory with a second truck, and they're going to basically promote their general manager in training, who's running that first truck, to general manager. They're going to promote the junior technician to lead technician, and then they're going to hire 3 new people, another lead and 2 juniors. And by month 6 or 7, they're going to have 5 employees working for them with 2 trucks on the road. And within the first year and a half, they're going to add that 3rd truck. So in that first 18 months, we tell franchise owners that if you need $150,000 to $175,000 a year salary year 1 of owning a franchise, don't buy a franchise.
Yeah.
Like, save more capital. Do it when there's less risk associated with it, because we don't want franchise owners drawing the salary until the business has like enough value to do that. Now, I should preface this with, we do have loan products that you can build a salary into, and then that would be part of the loan. However, like, it's going to be a decrease in lifestyle for most high-level corporate employees, because those corporate employees spent 15 years getting to $175,000 a year. Like, it wasn't like they just got hired out of college. This is a completely new industry, a completely new business for them. But if they get those 3 trucks on the road within the first 2 years, they're on a pretty great run rate going into year 3. And that's really where we're trying to coach franchise owners on, is like, look, put your head down for 24 months and drive this business forward with every single thing you've got over the next 24 months. And you'll start to see some really great returns, and it could be sooner than that. I'm just, as you think about ramp up, like, we're driving this business forward to a sizable operation with 3, 4, 5, 6 trucks. And for the size investment that we are, it doesn't make sense to make that sizable investment without multiple trucks on the road. It just doesn't.
Yes.
So that's kind of what we're thinking through.
Yeah, and it's like the restaurant business. If you're going to get one restaurant, it's probably not going to make sense. It's all about the multi-units and the ability to scale. And everybody's talking about scaling.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest buzzword of 2024 going into 2025. And what is scale to you?
Yeah, so scale is when you have enough revenue from the business to continue to reinvest in the business and pay for great employees. Like, I mean, think about just Rolling Suds on the corporate level. Like, when we launched this, I did all the sales myself. I made sure that we had enough revenue coming in to support the staff that we needed to support franchise owners. And I think that there's very few things at the beginning of a business that are higher leverage for an owner to do than to drive sales. Because without sales, you have nothing.
Yes.
Like, you don't have a business. You can hire great people, you can have great operations, but if you don't have the revenue, it doesn't matter. Like, none of it matters. The business doesn't go. So what we try to do is just have franchise owners understand that in order to get to scale, you have to drive enough revenue to where you have money to reinvest in the business. And that's going to take sometimes 16-hour days. Our best franchise owner, Nick, who you've met, during some of the busy seasons, he's working 16, 17 hours a day. However, he now has a third of his business is recurring from like 5 customers. But he's out there driving sales, building relationships, being in his community, and everyone knows him as the power washer in this community. Another power washer called up that's been doing it, and he goes, I'm not resting until you have to close. Like, literally. And like that's the type of stuff we're looking for, is like that owner who's like, I don't care what it takes. I'm making this business work. And that's honestly what it takes to get to scale.
My favorite characteristic of great franchise owners is competitive spirit.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to be number one.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's next for Rolling Suds in 2025 here?
So it's national accounts is a big push for us this year. We will add about 200 more units this year, between 60 to 80 new franchise owners. We'll probably have about 180-ish trucks on the road, which means we'll have 180 territories open by the end of the year. So we'll have 400 units sold, 175 to 190 open, roughly in that range. Just basically continue to build on, we're already the biggest power washing brand in the world, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But now we need to basically make sure all the franchisees are able to achieve their why and achieve their goals. And so my team is entirely focused on how do we increase the unit level economics and help our franchise owners be as successful as possible. And that's what it's all about. That's what franchising is.
Yeah. And I love how you never rest. Whether it's marketing, you have one of my friends, she's the marketing genius, the marketing queen, as I call her, who is turning over every rock, so to speak, to make sure that you guys are doing the latest and greatest. And I love that about you, and they're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Final thoughts, final words of wisdom for the audience?
Final words of wisdom for anyone who's watching this or listening to this that wants to become a franchise owner or become a business owner is just know exactly what you're getting yourself into. And I mean this because I truly want whoever is listening to this to find what they're looking for. And if you're willing to put the time in and put the effort in to really build something meaningful, and when I say build, I mean give it your absolute everything, then that is, you have to do the things the unordinary things that no one else is willing to do in order to get the things that no one else can get. And I think this idea of hey, we don't need to work, or I'm going to do this on this part-time, for our business model specifically, I would never want someone to make a $250,000, $300,000 investment and just hope it works out. We need them going all in, building this, and it's my everything. So I'm going to expect that it's every franchisees who come in everything, or someone who's part of their team and has some type of equity stake in the business. And so really determine, hey, do I want to do this? And am I willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen? And also, the franchisor isn't going to do it for me. And that's something that I feel is missed oftentimes. If I could do it for them, there'd be no reason to franchise.
True story.
They just keep the entire economic benefit of the business. And so what we try to do is help franchisees understand, we want you to build a business that has enterprise value that you can sell for a multiple of its earnings at some point. Here's the path to do that. And if you follow this path, you have a likelihood of being successful.
Yeah.
But you have to follow the path.
Thanks for being here, my
Thanks
friend.
for having me. Yeah.
My pleasure.